Focus on Abilities is brought to you by Tier Memorial Herman, redefining rehabilitation, removing barriers, re-enabling independence. In the ILRU Southwest ADA Center, promoting compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Welcome to Focus on Abilities, a program about issues affecting the lives of people with disabilities. I'm Lex Frieden. I'll be your host for today's program. I'm director of the Independent Living Research Utilization Program at Tier Memorial Herman, and I'm professor at the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston. We have a really interesting guest today and a great series of topics to discuss. Before I introduce her, however, I want to ask you a question, one that we will answer before the end of today's program. What was the first college in Texas to offer a post-secondary collegiate-style education program for students with intellectual disabilities? We'll answer the question before the end of today's program. Now please stay tuned for Focus on Abilities. Thank you for being with us here today. I'm Lex Frieden. This is Focus on Abilities, and we have a special guest. I'm happy to introduce to you Ana Calvo. Ana, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much, Lex, for having me today.
Ana, you have many roles here in Houston, important roles, and you reminded me before the show started that I met you now about 10 years ago. Oddly enough, in Washington, D.C., even though you were a Houstonian. What was the occasion of our meeting?
Yes, it was the 15th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act at the Kennedy Center, and I was performing with Dionysus Theater.
So, and as I recall, your theater group was invited to come to Washington to perform to all the people who came to a wonderful night where President Bush actually came and talked about his memories of the ADA.
Exactly. It was an amazing night, and it was just a wonderful experience for myself. I was only 21 years old, and just getting involved with advocacy in the disability community at that time, we had the opportunity to present at the Kennedy Center because we were one of the first inclusive theaters. Both people with disabilities and without disabilities perform in Dionysus original plays and musics and stuff.
You were a vocalist, right?
Yes, I'm a vocalist.
You remember what you sang that night?
I sang several, and I sang an original song called Here in My Room, where basically I speak of, I'm not alone in my room and there's others like me. Who stand beside me.
Oh, I remember that. It's a moving song, and people might be able to find a copy of it on YouTube, huh?
It is. If you go in the archives of the Kennedy Center, you can still search for that.
Very neat. So, Ana, today you're 10 years older than when I first met you.
I am.
You're involved in a number of activities. Primarily, I suppose, is that which gives you an income. You work at HCC. Can you tell us about that program, about your role there?
I'm currently at Houston Community College. I work with the transition team with VAST Academy. VAST Academy is a post-secondary education program for students with intellectual and learning disabilities. And so we give the opportunity for those students who are either on the spectrum or have a learning disability to attend college, get a certificate, and then get gainful employment after that.
Now, for the benefit of people who may not be as familiar with the verbiage as we are, when we talk about intellectual disabilities, we're talking about a range of different types of disabilities. Some of them people with impairments that affect their ability to remember, their ability to solve problems. What else?
To remember, to solve problems, to basically comprehend, their reading comprehension may not be up to par. You may have some students who, for example, don't understand how to compute numbers exactly the same. You have some students who have dyslexia, you know, and so mix up letters and numbers and things like that.
You also said students on the spectrum.
Yes.
And from that standpoint, you're talking about kids who have a learning disability of one sort or another, right?
On the spectrum, I'm speaking of students on the autism spectrum. And so not necessarily if you have autism, you have a learning disability or intellectual disability. There's a distinction. And so either you're on the spectrum or you have an intellectual disability. And so therefore, we also accept students on the autism spectrum.
Now, these kids have all been through the school system. I mean, they have to have a high school certificate before they can get into your program, which is essentially a college program, right?
Most definitely. All of our students must have graduated high school, have received a high school diploma. They have to be reading at least on a third grade level to be able to enter our program. We do some testing in addition to some of the testing that the parents also bring independently. And students need to be able to function somewhat independently because it is a college environment. And so we do try to give them that autonomy of college students. We are no longer holding their hand and showing them where classes are, you know, and doing that because we're trying to prepare them for employment afterwards too.
Now, what exactly is your job in the program?
My job in the program is to assist students doing that transition from high school into college. Because it's a big one, and I find myself assisting more the parents than the students because the students are ready to do it, and so preparing them on, you know, what our expectations are, and then once they get into college, all the independent living that comes with once you are an adult and navigating the whole adult life in college and living with a disability.
But the program doesn't necessarily require people to live independently. Many of the students probably still live at home with their families just as other young college students do today,
I would
right?
say about 60% of our students live at home with their parents, but you know, you have that even if they're living at home with their parents, most of our students still want to have that sense of self and being, and so they want to be able to manage, go to the grocery store,
right.
Manage
get back and forth to school on their own.
You know, do their own transportation, manage their own bank accounts and things like that. And so I help them do that.
We'll talk more about the VAST Academy, the program that you're involved in, and your other activities in Houston, but right now we're going to take a break. Please stay tuned. We'll be back with more Focus on Abilities. I'm Lex Frieden. You're watching Focus on Abilities on HTV, and our guest today is Ana Calvo from the HCC VAST Academy. Ana, there must be a lot of people with disabilities, families of people with disabilities in Houston who would love to go to college. And some of these kids may not think they're eligible because they do have an intellectual disability or they're way up there on the so-called spectrum. They've been able to get through high school, but they wonder what's next. If they're interested in VAST Academy, where can they go to get more information? How can they be admitted?
Most definitely. If you are interested in learning more about VAST Academy, you can go to our website, and it's vast.hccs.edu. You can also contact me at 713-718-6297. We are located at Houston Community College Central Campus.
So downtown Houston.
Downtown Houston, Midtown.
And the students, what kind of an admission review process do you have?
We students are required to fill out the application that you can download through our website. Students are asked to provide proof of graduation, their transcript, the last art review, because we need to see what kind of accommodations they had in high school so that we can also accommodate properly. And then we will do some testing, placement tests.
What about tuition? I mean, college is not a inexpensive undertaking today. Are there scholarships? How does that work?
We do provide some scholarships. Scholarships are available after students have attended Bass Academy about a semester, and because we want to see grades. In addition to that, some voc rehab facilities do support Bass Academy, and so it's on a case-by-case basis. So you can visit your voc rehab to see if you can qualify.
So I'm thinking of a question that many people might be asking, and that is that when these young people graduate, are they just graduating from a day program? Do they get a certificate? Do they get a real college degree from HCC? And have they learned anything, or have they just occupied their time in the school?
Oh, no. When our students graduate our program, you get a certificate of occupational skills. And so you get real life skills. Our students are required at the end of the 2 years of academic courses to do a 200-hour internship in one of their interests. And so that internship is also directed towards leading into employment. And for example, we've had success in employing some of our students at some of the local hospitals,
wow,
like MD Anderson, some of the oil and gas energy companies, even in some of the child care facilities and things like that. It all depends. We look at the students' goals, the students' ability level, and also what is realistic.
So the ultimate outcome measure and the objective really is employment.
Yes.
How do you find the students do, generally speaking? Most of them get a job?
I would say about 60% of our students will get a job. And the reason is 60% is because 60% of the students who come through our program who get a job are the ones who want to be employed.
Okay. So some people actually may go there curious about whether they're good candidates for employment or whether they like to work.
Exactly. I mean, it's just like college. Any kind of college. You have some students who come to college, and once you're done with college, you just don't want to work.
I get it.
And so it's kind of the same thing.
Anna, you, in addition to your job at Bass Academy, I know you've also been involved with the Miss Wheelchair Texas program. You're a well-known community advocate, appearing at City Hall from time to time to raise one or more issues.
Yes.
How would you describe your non-work life?
I wear many hats. When people ask me, Anna, what do you do? I said, well, professionally or in my off time, when I do have off time. I am involved with Miss Wheelchair Texas. I am a former Miss Wheelchair Texas. In 2009, I had the title, and now I am one of their board members. In addition to that, I feel very passionate of advocating for people with disabilities and really making our city and our nation a lot more accessible. And so, when I do see that there is an issue or a problem, it is our responsibility to let it be known, because sometimes officials don't know, and unless you bring attention to it, that's how things are changed.
Are there any particular issues that you're concerned about or focusing on right now?
Right now, specifically, I think it's the transportation within the city, and some of the, for example, the Lyft and the Uber transportation is a big one.
So we do have a number of new transportation providers who assert that they are not responsible for compliance with the ADA and that they do not have to provide equal opportunity or equal services to people with disabilities, right?
Most definitely.
Have you tried to use Uber?
I have tried to use Uber in my manual chair, and I will say that it can be challenging, to say the least.
And in your power chair, they don't have any way to accommodate you, right?
In my power chair, it's not available.
Yeah. Well, I hope you can help resolve that issue? Because a lot of us would like to have access to the service and feel like it's really discriminatory not to be able to serve us.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anna, you have been involved in the Miss Wheelchair Texas program. That's kind of an empowerment program. Where did you feel that you first became empowered?
My first real passion for disability and disability issues was in college, and it was during my time at University of Houston downtown, and the university was doing actually renovations to their third main floor, and I noticed that some of the things weren't exactly accessible, and it was frustrating me. And because it was frustrating me and nobody was doing anything about it, I spoke to the Abilities office, and I got with the disability team and the organization and stuff, and we kind of all got together and said, why don't we go and speak to the president and make a change and make sure that as they renovate this university, they make some appropriations to make sure that things are accessible.
And they made an accommodation. They actually made a commitment to be totally accessible moving forward, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, congratulations. That was a good first experience and had to be empowering there, taking that initiative. You grew up in Houston, right?
I did grow up in Houston.
I want to ask you some more about that, but we're going to take another break now. So you all please stay tuned, and we'll be back with more Ana Calvo. Ana Calvo is our guest here today on Focus on Abilities. Anna, you really have made an impact on Houston. You grew up here. Did you go to the public schools?
I did go to the public schools in Houston.
Was that before the ADA?
It was. I'm an 80s child.
And how did you actually manage in the schools? Not many of them were accessible at that time, were they?
No, during my early years before I could advocate for myself, my parents had to be my advocates, and Mr. Calvo, my father, Houston Independent School District, hated hearing Mr. Calvo come down the hall. And sometimes, I'm first generation immigrant, and so they were still trying to figure out how far they could go because our cultures are very different, and in the Latin American culture you don't question authority, and so at the beginning my parents didn't know that they could, how far they could question authority and fight for their rights, but little by little my father started learning that this isn't right, and my daughter deserves better. Of course, in the 80s, if a child had a physical disability, automatically they thought that she had a learning or intellectual, or he had a learning intellectual disability. So I was placed in a special education classroom. And so early on, my father said, no, that's not appropriate. And she needs to be in a typical classroom with everyone else. And so he fought for that. And I was one of the first children to be considered in mainstreaming. And they said, let's try that. Let's see how that works, and if she doesn't affect the other children.
Was that decision made at a school level or at the administration level?
It had to be made at the administration level.
Wow. Well, that does indicate a lot of assertiveness and good advocacy on the part of your father and your mother. The experience that you had then was kind of a pioneering experience, but it seemed like it worked out okay in the end.
Definitely. Well, and in fact, the school, I lived across a school, an elementary school, but I had to be bused 30 minutes to another school that was accessible.
Wow.
So I thank my parents. I went to one of the first, I was one of the first individuals with a disability to attend my high school. And so that was an eye-opener, I think, for all of us, too.
And after high school, you went to University of Houston downtown and Graduated there?
Yeah, after high school, I went to the University of Houston downtown, graduated there, and then I got my graduate degree from the University of Houston.
Anna, growing up with a disability, and some of us have disabilities that are not hidden. If people see us and they wonder how we got that way. Do people ask you that question?
All the time. They wonder, you know, how has your disability affected you? If you had the magic pill, would you take it and not have a disability?
And how do you answer those questions?
I don't think I would take the magic pill and not have my disability.
You're happy with yourself?
I'm very comfortable and very happy with myself because I think that my disability has made me who I am today. I don't think I would like myself without my disability. I think I would be a very self-centered, ugly person.
And your disability was at birth?
My disability was at birth. My mother was given a medication, thalidomide, when she was pregnant. Again, I was born in a Central American country, and so those countries weren't made aware of the dangers of thalidomide.
Have you met other people who were affected the same way?
I have, and recently there has been a group formed of other thalidomide individuals.
When people ask you these questions, or more often I think we're probably affected by people who don't ask the question, and we hear them whisper behind our backs. I saw you posted something on Facebook the other day about a conversation that went around behind you. Maybe the people thought you didn't speak Spanish, but you heard this conversation, and how did you confront those people?
It was very interesting because I was at the grocery store purchasing my daily groceries. I do everything independently, and they mentioned the Spanish word pobrecita, poor thing, and because I refuse their assistance in helping me with my phone, and sometimes I do that because I have my routine and I know how to do things.
So you could do it perfectly well. It wasn't like you needed help.
Exactly, and sometimes it kind of holds me back and it trips me up.
Yeah, it interferes with your ability to do it yourself.
And getting someone's help, and so I said, oh, I graciously said, thank you, I got it. And so they said, oh, poor thing, pobrecita, I wish I was never in your state.
Wow.
And I said, well, I'm sorry, but I'm really happy where I am, and I hope that if you ever consider, ever have a disability or are ever in my state, you one day can deal with it.
Did you feel like they got the message?
No, I don't. And again, I think that because also Latin American culture also views disabilities a little bit different.
Well, I understand that, but I think all cultures may have a difficulty because we've been hidden from society for so long and treated differently for so many decades. And it's only been the last 25 years that we've had the ADA, that the media has begun to treat us like part of the society. I think we have to adapt very quickly because the society is aging so quickly. We'll have many, many more people with disabilities as a result of the baby boomers getting old than we can even imagine right now. So our society will learn through its own experience, and I guess to some extent you and I and others are kind of pioneers. We're on the front edge of that wave of understanding, and I think that will affect the whole world. I think it's beginning to.
Very true, and I still encounter people who, because I have a disability, automatically assume that I'm sitting at home doing nothing and don't have an education.
Well, but likewise, there are people who think you are superhuman because you do what you do. So it cuts both ways.
Can I touch you?
And at the beginning of the program, I asked the question, what college in Texas is the first to provide an education for intellectually disabled people? We've answered the question, I think. It is the place you work, right?
Correct. Bass Academy.
Houston Community College.
Houston Community College.
All right. I sure do appreciate you being here today. We'll hopefully have the opportunity to work closely together in the future, and you'll be welcome back on this program anytime.
Thank you very much, and thank you for letting me have this opportunity, Lex.
Great. I want to thank all of you for watching. We'll be right back with a final word. You've been watching Focus on Abilities on HTV, Houston's #1 channel for information about what's going on around town, and particularly on this program about how people with disabilities can engage more in activities in our community. We've had our guest today, Ana Calvo, talking about the VAST Academy at HCC, and if you'd like more information, their website is VAST, V-A-S-T, .hccs.edu. Google VAST Academy in Houston if you'd like, because you'll get a lot of information about a wonderful program there. Now I want to thank you for watching again. I want to invite you to come back next time to watch more Focus on Abilities. I'm Lex Frieden, your host, and have a great day.
Focus on Abilities was brought to you by Tier Memorial Hermann, redefining rehabilitation, removing barriers, re-enabling independence, and the ILRU Southwest ADA Center, promoting compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act.